someday is not a day of the week. You cannot plan for someday. Specifics is where faith takes action. What you take action on is an indication of where your faith is. Because if you believe something, you also believe it enough to take action on it. Okay? So the areas that you're stuck and not taking action on is also an area where your faith is probably needing to grow and level up in. You'll only take action in those things that you believe. So where are you stuck in? What area of your life is not moving forward? What's holding you back? It starts with what you believe. Okay? So whatever you believe is holding you back and keeping you stuck, there you will find an agreement with something that is not true. And it was an agreement that was probably made somewhere in your past to protect yourself from having that ever happen again. But in doing so, you then closed yourself off from the answer, which often looks like the thing that was painful to begin with. So if you come from it of control, and now you break free from that, and you don't want anything to do with control. However, accountability is a good thing. But if you don't make the distinction, accountability will feel like control. And so you'll also reject the opposite of control, which is accountability, except there's a different heart behind it. Control has to do with bondage, whereas accountability has to do with freedom. Okay? So that which you judge, you then also close yourself off to the answer, because the answer often looks like the very thing that was bad. And so you throw out the baby with the bathwater and you stay stuck in that area. Okay. What are you stuck in? What's holding you back? Identify that thing and then ask yourself, okay, what does its counterpart look like? How can I embrace that? Well, you can't unless you forgive, release, bless, and honor what you have been trying to get away from. And instead of trying to get away from that thing that's holding you back and getting stuck, create what you want by defining what you want. First of all, define what you want. Create a plan of action on how to go after that with daily habits. Focus on creating the daily habits that will take you to where you want to go. And in the process of going after what you want to create in your life, just like God did, follow his creation code, his pattern of how he created things. In the beginning, he created time and space for his creation to exist, and they plant, seeds, and then each day is like a progression. And that we can follow that pattern on creating anything we want in our life. We're created in God's image after his likeness. He created us to also create our home, develop the land, subdue, take dominion, and so forth. So if you can identify what's holding you back and what's keeping you stuck, ask yourself, why have I not yet achieved that? Whatever you identify as that thing that is holding you back from achieving what you want, now you know what you're working with. We can go back to someday is not a day of the week. You can't plan for someday. It's not specific enough. You'll never get around to it. We'll always be busy. You'll never have enough time until we get specific and define the why deep enough to where it taps into your emotions. You won't move forward. So what are emotions about? Often they make an emotional decision as a bad thing. Oh, I made an emotional decision. That was a mistake. Why do you see emotions as bad? Emotions are drivers. They motivate you. Emotions are motivators. Emotions get you into motion. That's the purpose of emotions. People consider them bad if they have it attached to a bad experience, but that doesn't make emotions bad. Emotions is neither good or bad. They're a neutral thing. It's not a good or bad thing. Emotion. It's an expression. Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. It's an expression. When you ask questions, you open yourself up to receive the answer. And likewise, when you ask yourself questions, what do I want? And you start answering that question, it'll open you up to receive the answer from within yourself. The Spirit of God will even reveal it to you if you ask the question.
Someday versus a specific time in a day. When you plan and you put that thing, whatever your plan is, on a specific date, things going to start moving forward. You're going to start taking action forward, right, to achieve that thing because you have a deadline now. And that thing can happen before that deadline if you are taking action and pursuing things, unless, so you need to be realistic on those things too. Someday I want to get married. And we say, okay, great. When is the someday? Let's define it. When would you like to be married? By when? And we start defining that and putting on the calendar.
Not almost 100% of the time, if they don't want to answer that question, it's because they don't want to be held accountable to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you put dates on things, you're now sticking your neck out with accountability.
Yeah.
And if you have an agreement with control, you're going to push back on that and not want to put dates on anything because that looks like control and bondage to you because you still have a judgment on control. So therefore you cannot receive the accountability that will move you towards freedom and towards things that are good and beneficial for you.
You probably have a lunch or dinner or breakfast on your schedule, right? For certain time, especially if you're working a job, you know that your time is this window in your schedule is going to be your lunch, right? Or you're meeting up with friends for dinner, or you have a family dinner. You know the time. You can't say someday I'm going to have lunch or dinner. It's the same principle for everything else. And most everyone who took action achieved that and got married by the time that they put on the calendar or right on that date. And
there's also the thing of a lot of times that people put the date at which they want married so far down the road is because when we ask them, when do you want to be married? They immediately think of all of the mountains and the obstacles between where they are and where they want to be. Yeah. And they have a preconceived idea of how long it's going to take them to process through those obstacles and overcome those things in order to get married. Yeah. So to them, marriage looks like this impossible dream because of all these obstacles and issues that I have to deal with first. And that's a stuck mentality trap right there. Yeah. Because number one, you're always going to have things to work on. There is no arrival point on being ready for marriage. There is no point of feeling ready to get married. However, there are things that you can do that will raise your confidence in your ability to commit. And that has to do with developing the skill set. It's not necessarily just about overcoming things. It's about developing your skills. Okay, again, it's about your focus. If you're focusing on addressing all these obstacles and problems and issues, you're never going to get done. However, if you stop focusing on those things and you start focusing on developing the skills and the cycles and the daily habits that will create a deep connection, deep relationship, and will develop your confidence, communication, and commitment so you can create deep connection. Guess what? As you develop those things, all these issues that you thought you had, all of a sudden you look at them, they're like, they're gone. Why? Because you focus on what you want to create instead of focusing on what you want to deal with and take care of so you can get married. And that's the treadmill that a lot of singles get stuck on. They're trying to deal with this. I want to pay out, get out of debt. I want to, break my addiction with pornography, or I want to lose weight. I want to buy a house. I want to start this business, and I have this personality trait issue, and on and on and on. The list is endless. Well, you're never going to get done. That's a treadmill of just like perpetual stuckness. You'll never get off. You'll never break free from that until you get off the treadmill, focus on what you want to go after, and start creating that. In the process of focusing on what you want, you deal with the things that you're trying to get away from without even focusing on them. Most of the issues that we might want to overcome before getting married connected to a connection. Or a lack of connection. So if you focus on creating connection, those issues will often disappear. That certain things we are stuck in because we're not connecting with that thing or ourselves or something else that is keeping us stuck, right? And then when you are learning the connection skills and tools, you start chipping away at those things. And then the things that come to mind, and you say, oh my gosh, I always had this problem with finances. I have no idea how to move through it. And then you come to find out that
back in the days, you created this agreement, something happened in your life, and now you are stuck because you believed something back then. Now it's no longer that, but you're still carrying that. That was a connection you created back then. Now we need to flip the script, change it, and move forward, and things start aligning for us. Our mindset, right? A lot of things is the lack of connection, or just the wrong connection in a way, right? So we need to shift that and move a needle forward. And by putting a date on the calendar for many things and getting equipped in the connection realm, it's going to help you to break those things, and you'll find freedom.
Turn up the heat.
Yeah. And go deeper.
And go deeper.
Yeah.
Ask deeper why questions, bigger why questions.
Yeah.
Because if you're growing and learning and developing, you will be in new territory. And I
Mhm.
guarantee you, you will have questions for the Father.
Yeah.
You'll have things to write about and to ask questions about if you're growing. So if you have no questions, or you're getting
Mhm.
bored, it's probably because you're not growing and you're not developing.
Mhm.
You know, we're constantly, as humans, we're looking for that place of comfort and ease
Mhm.
psychologically.
Mhm.
However, if we do arrive at the point of comfort and ease, we quickly get bored, because we weren't designed to stay there for any longer than it takes but to celebrate and then raise the bar and keep going.
Mhm.
It's how God designed it. So if you're bored or depressed or discouraged, you might have hit a comfort zone,
Mhm.
or you settled. You just accepted the status of where you are,
Mhm.
and you stopped growing.
And dreaming.
You gave up hope, and you gave up your dreams,
Mhm.
and you decided it's easier to just stay here where it's comfortable. Well, guess what? What happens when a plant stops growing? It starts dying.
Mhm.
It's the same way with humans. You have got to keep pushing yourself and going and taking it to the next level,
Yeah.
or you're gonna wither and die. So growth is not an option. It's not optional in God's kingdom or on earth. You're either growing or you're going backwards.
It's necessary.
There is no in between.